Welcome back for part two. If you didn't see part one already, please go ahead and check out that video in the course. This is part two for how to set up your Claude Code for level 5. So again, please like, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and also go to the link in the bio, join the other platforms, Substack included, so you can stay up to date for these tips, these insights, and things that I'll be bringing to you about how to deal with artificial intelligence in general. Okay, so again, we already jumped into a lot of this. If you haven't already seen how we got to this place of talking about this particular code, please do so. Right, last video, I'll tag it here in the bio as well. But in general, yeah, this is where we are. So I'm actually going to jump into the description again of what the project is. The project we started talking about was called Voice Jarvis. This is a home assistant that I run. It's a version of kind of running that Tony Stark feel for Jarvis. I call mine Jamal. That's the name that I've provided for its training and its prompting. And so that's what it will answer to. In that project that I've been working on, I'm actually in the middle of changing it from running specifically on OpenAI's real time API to Pipecat, which I've been able to do some research on being cheaper, flexible, running locally. And so I'll talk about how this is a great ticket, a great example of running something in a high stakes environment with Claude Code and the two different pain points of being the actual, let's say, documentation or doc strings in general in the module that haven't been updated, as well as actually handling a migration level issue. So senior practitioners should get a pretty good feel for what I'm talking about here. Okay, so uh, we're going to talk about how, in general, the ticketing process from GitHub or however you're managing your ticketing. I still work through GitHub. Um, in general, you should be working from how you still create specific titles, descriptions, and scoping of your separate PRs. Okay, you want to make sure that you're giving your Claude Code the chance to work through this. My favorite thing is to do so um, from just allowing Claude Code to do it through prompting and ask it to create the PRs through strategy to do so from iterating over the file or the code base. So don't sit here and do it yourself, right? Like I would say, literally prompt it. So let me give you a real on-screen example. I'm gonna flip back and forth between Voice Jarvis. I actually have not loaded it here to this Linux server that I record from. But I'm going to show you another project that actually works literally the same. Okay, you're going to see on screen now. I have my terminal up from the last project. This is a trading robot. This is a trade bot, algorithm based, but it's actually been embedded with artificial intelligence through several different ways, but mainly through strategy and implementation. I built in artificial intelligence to be able to see it from that volume. And we're going to do a couple of on-screen examples, right? Like I'll give you a chance to kind of see what's going on there. I'm going to clear this particular conversation so we can start from the beginning. So clear screen, right? And we're going to talk about the PRs. But first, what I'd like to do is just give you a system context diagram just real quick. So I'm going to say, for example, in our live YouTube tutorial, please draw up I like to say please a lot. I don't know why. I think it's mostly because I do believe that there's a sentence to the actual model. So call me conspiracy believer or whatever. I would just say act pretty nice about it. Oh, you know what? This is a proprietary system. I'm actually going to take that one off. I don't know why it is talking about that one. Let's do this last one. Speaking on the trading program. All right. I should have started the bot off in a chat room specifically about, or not a chat room, I'm sorry, in the folder or directory for it. I actually started it under the users directory for myself. And so that's why we are seeing quite a few weird things there. As you're looking at the system context diagram here built out, it gives you that understanding of what all is here. You're welcome to take a look at this. All of this is built off of internal systems. So there's nothing crazy here that I'm sharing with you. I know there's an internal IP address shared here, but internal it is, and you won't be able to see that or use it. And everything else here, you'll kind of get details on how this stuff is made up, right? Like you get a chance to see, we have, it's hosted on a local server. I have Mongo running for it. There's a broker API behind that. I still use AWS in the controls. And here's the actual overall system architecture that's running for this particular thing. So as we get into working on PRs, I'm going to walk you through what I've configured for that to work for mine. So let's get a PR started. For example, in the YouTube, going to do a PR discovery process. We are bug hunting or looking places to optimize the code base. Okay. So that, I mean, just talk to it loosely, have the conversation there. This is me saying though, like, for example, I want to have the code base do what it needs to do. So we'll give Claude a chance to kind of do that, and we'll come back to that in a second. Um, I'm going to talk about this again real quick though. So again, when we get into creating the ticket, we're looking for making that title, the description, and the scope. We'll have Claude kind of walk through what exactly it's set up for that to be done. But what I want to kind of say here is, again, don't be vague, right? We need this to be an actual issue. We need to treat this with that SDLC that I was talking about, that software development lifecycle that we talked about in part one, video one, right? So go to that if you're confused at all. So we'll get into the planning purpose here. So let's switch back over to the Claude Code real quick. Again, we asked it to go ahead and start working on a bug hunting proposal flow. And so for this, we have quite a few things that it's come by to do. So it's saying that it's already giving me like input on how to set the screen, which is great, but because it doesn't know we've started already, essentially, and I could just give it that context, right? But essentially, it's going to tell us, like, let's run a couple of agents here, and these are agents that I talked about in part one of the 16 that I have developed outside of the 3 that come out of the box with Claude Code. These are specific to how I've kind of built my workflows. Excuse me, I had to take a drink. So I would say, the next part from here is that we're actually going to initiate what it might be agreeing to do. There's some pushback I would always provide, right? Like always have it provide better planning. I don't essentially believe you need to always be in planning mode. It's not a bad thing to do. But if you have your Claude MD file set up, you can tell it inside of that file to literally always plans before it implements anything with you. And that is for sure the best way to do it. So from here, we're just going to say, let's go ahead and start forming a few PRs for, well, let's say after we investigate possible bugs or issues. Before we add it to the list, it must be verified. Okay, so with my Claude Code 2, you're also going to see it's going to spin up multiple agents or sub-agents. Again, go back to part one, like and share this video if you like everything you've learned so far. Go back to the first video and learn about some of the steps that I may be breezing through here. But here in general, you're going to see it work through some of that with different sub-agents and kind of targeting whatever it sees to be the best solution. So if it's running it in the context window for the actual agent here, it just generally doesn't believe that it needs to use sub-agents to get the work done and thinks it can be more effective doing it here in the chat. Okay, so we're gonna go back over here. So planning is where most careers are made or lost in general, but in terms of using artificial intelligence, this is where you're going to make your bread and butter. Okay. Don't delegate planning to cheap models. Please, 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 please don't do that. And don't overcode with expensive models. Opus will be your planner. Sonnet will execute. You decide. Haiku is actually really great too for doing a lot of execution and certainly document creation or SOP creations in between. Why should you use Opus for planning? Well, the token math alone is that planning is roughly 5% of total tokens consumed in any typical session. It drives 95% of the outcome. So, I mean, if you just do the math roughly, the more time you spend in planning with Opus, you'll maximize the feeling of a one shot situation or the feeling of working with Opus and properly. So again, you'll plan, and then you don't go and execute through Opus because again, it's more expensive. It's going to take up more computational power. What does Opus do differently? It has surface assumptions that you haven't stated. It will ask you questions. It will poke and prod if you've not already experimented in other ways. It identifies file level impact before the code is written. It proposes a risk list that you can argue with. And Opus will often audit the docs for a staleness as part of the same pass. Now, this is something that may not happen naturally if you're not setting up your prompts and your different Claude MD files to correctly understand that. You'll get the analysis and the pushback that you can get analysis when you push back on things. Don't be afraid to do that, right? Like argue with Opus or even tell it to be judgmental on its own work and look for flaws. One of my favorite things to do. So here's the planning prompt in general that I want to provide for you. Here on this particular section, I have a lot of people who struggle with prompting and struggle with what to do to be effective on these layers. So I'm giving you right now on screen a verbatim example on how you need to be setting up your prompts. And there's gonna be a lot of feedback about how it can be more advanced, how you can add more features. Listen, hey, do your own homework here. But what I know is this is very, very effective. And I have a very low failure rate for any of my agents that are running, right? So the planning prompt here, very simple. We have a bug in symptom blah, I mean, that's my favorite part. It's just really quick, like, hey, I have this thing I've discovered. I took a screenshot. Take a screenshot, send context, send different behavior things that are happening, as much context as possible. Like I've put 10-15 screenshots in before after I've kind of like looked at behavior of an application, behavior of a system, different things like that. Before any of that code is written here, this is what the planning will work through, right? And again, explicitly reminding it, do not write any code yet. These things just create so much more of an effective model, right? We're going to swing back over to the trading bot real quick. Okay. Okay, so we're looking at just some of the work that's going on over here with the agent real quick. I did say that it was going to spin up some agents. What you're looking at on the screen is you can see that it spun up at least 3 agents. It has the code-based guardian, it has chief security officer, and the senior full stack developer, right? So 3 different agents. They're actually working in tandem. So that I love the fact that Claude Code's team has been working on making sure that context is viewable between all of the agents, and they're able to work in synchronization. And they, even if they're working on different branches of the same project, essentially, that's not going to be a problem. I say that because I have this QA code base guardian who will run over hygiene of the code base and dead code sweeps. And then we also have another GitHub particular bot who's all in charge of monitoring merges, squashing things whenever it comes up. So we have given the agent context to work ultimately kind of like its own dev shop, right? And I am managing it as the senior architect, senior program manager, project manager. So you need to adopt the same workflow. That's what I would say. Okay. So we're moving quite along here. The pushback that I was talking about, like while Opus is thinking, right, keep talking to it. I mean, I would say as a bare minimum, you should put two to three messages in during planning, even from like a really great answer from Opus. Treat the model like a peer. It's not a not necessarily a tool. I would say read that plan aloud as it streams. That's one of my. I think you need to really read that if you're going to be on your phone, working from Claude Code, from the phone or the app, or if you're working from your terminal still. You need to be reading and involved with the actual prompting. Um, and then, strong suggestion to find at least one thing to disagree with is what I would say. Right. Claude Code is, in my opinion, designed to bring out the best in engineers. It's the weaknesses in engineers are exacerbated as well, is what I would say. So if you're poor in documentation and retention, and you don't tell Claude Code to be handling that, and you don't have prompting set up in a way where it should be handling for you, you're going to suffer tremendously, right? The really great side of this as an engineer is that if you do set up those places on your blind sides as an engineer, you can minimize the negative effects of developing and working with Claude Code, OpenAI's Codex, Gemini, CLI, whatever. Um, because all of these things are moving quickly, the outputs happen quickly, and you don't need to put yourself in a position where you're creating more barriers to being effective. You need to practice the principles of software development lifecycle and project management, product management, even if you are not by title one of those things today, right? The generalist situation is occurring. It is happening today. And you are now in the wave, especially if you're watching this video. So, part two, again, welcome. If you haven't already checked me out before, please drop a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Share this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Go to the link in the bio and help me grow the platform as much as possible, please. And thank you. Okay. Here's why you should be switching to Sonnet when it comes to coding and getting stuff done. And the beautiful part about this today is that the orchestration model layers that Cloud Code team is working on, they are working on having Opus steer after it has helped you strategize and work on that. So it, in some cases, will just switch automatically to Sonnet. I think they're working on the adherence for that. So I imagine in the next couple of weeks, it will automatically be able to just work in like one mode for you, where you don't even have to keep switching back and forth. And eventually it just work effectively and efficiently to act as that its own harness to push towards which particular model for whatever stakes. But back to this. So switching to Sonnet, here's why: because Sonnet is fast, and against any particular plan that is great, a lock plan, that speed will matter. So you're iterating over that code, not discovering intent or coming up with new strategy and planning. You're carrying out what Opus has already helped you accomplish. Sonnet is cheap, right? Opus already gave you the understanding of where the bottlenecks were, and execution on that is what you need to knock out. And Sonnet executes insanely well. When the context is locked and the scope is tight, Sonnet is excellent, right? Arguably, in some places, you would just call it Opus low effort, I would say, and meaning it is basically Opus. It's just not using as many computational resources to accomplish the job. Here's your execution part when you're working, right? It's, hey, implement that plan that we just locked, start the fix, pause after each thing so I can review that before you move to the next, run tests after each change. If you have not already saved this on your screen, take a moment, capture this, save it as a prompt that you're going to use later, and use this in your workflows, right? Why you're going to want to do this is because models can plow through everything in one pass. Forcing a pause after each workflow step is important for the SDLC that we've talked about. All of this goes back to video one. The SDLC was the very first thing that I introduced. If you're questioning that or what I'm talking about, if you're a vibe coder who's jumping into wanting to perform at a better level, the SDLC is explained in the first video. Please go check that out, right? Pacing is a senior developer move. Merging velocity with review discipline is a difference between a clean pull request or a merge and a 400 line difference that nobody wants to approve when you're working as a team. And who knows how you will be doing QA, QC at your team or your environment. You may be working by yourself. Great. Then you can move faster. But if you're working with a team, you need to try to figure this out quickly. What to push back on during execution, right? Any variable naming that comes up as a change, if the name doesn't communicate that clear intent to the reader, it's wrong, even if it works. Error messaging text. Errors are user facing output. So generic messages are tech debt disguised as working code. You need to take error handling seriously. Missing edge cases. Sonnet solves the happy path well. You catch the edge cases the plan didn't name explicitly. What does that mean verbatim? During the edge cases, when you're programming, when you're using agentic platforms or agents themselves to manage work, there are going to be cases that the agents will run into issues where they need you to answer more context about how to proceed within your vision or the permissions at the time. This is one of the pieces that people are just tremendously frustrated with because they keep trying to give this autonomy to the agents, and that's not what the agents are for. That is still where human intervention is necessary. If there are edge cases, you need to step in and solve it. And then, of course, there's very thin test coverage with almost every project that I've ever come across. Guys, testing is so easy now with agents. You need to force your agent to write out tests, make sure the tests work, and have validation processes, and then have some sort of output validation for you. Either, a full kick out of what happened, save files, a dashboard, something, right? The agent should be able to update all these things for you. Excuse me. Okay, so next here, what happens when tests fail? I would say when tests fail, this doesn't mean like the model is not smart or the model is not capable. I think hopefully what you learned in this course so far is that if the model is failing, that is not a problem. If the model is failing, there's two reasons that we need to take advantage of it. It could mean that you have discovered something genuinely novel in the workflow, which again is super valuable because how quickly would you have been able to do that on your own as an engineer? Could have been days, could have been hours, but in this situation, you could dramatically cut that down to minutes. And you need to be able to determine the next step, right? Is it a read error? Can you trace the cause? And then how do you tune the model to understand the difference between fixing and rerunning? I feel like when it comes to troubleshooting, I'm going to want to write or put an entire part into this series or this particular course about troubleshooting with artificial intelligence and Claude Code in general. But troubleshooting has to become a piece of your generalist weaponry when using Claude Code. If you're going to be a level 5 architect or developer using this, right? If debugging runs a super long process output, you need to narrate checkpoints. I normally keep going at this point with the bot. You like type stuff in. You could talk to the bot, be contextual. I would say that you need to give more context when there are places that even the bot will show you in the output. It is questioning, okay, I've run into this place. What do I do next? So again, this is another point that I brought up earlier. You gotta be observing what is occurring here. Okay. Let's get you back on screen here. So when tests pass, don't ship it yet. I cannot reiterate this enough. Just because the test pass does not mean to me that you're going directly to production unless that's your workflow and you have justification, right? So I think the next immediate step is listen to the doc string. It says blah, blah, blah. This hasn't been true since the migration started. If someone joined this project today, they'd waste 20 minutes chasing the wrong abstraction. So here, what I'm trying to point out is that like Opus has flagged stale documentation according to the development stages that have already occurred. And if you fix them now, you can get that solved. Or they'll rot for another 8 months and cause an onboarding headache and a technical nightmare for everything that's come. So this for Haiku and Sonnet, Opus involved with strategy and planning, as we've said. But those two for the execution phase are going to be phenomenal at knocking out missing documentation, missing SOPs, missing diagrams, and putting them together. Okay, let's do a quick tutorial switch over. We're going to check out our Claude Code session that was working, had 3 agents going. So we're going to put you back on screen. We're going to check that out real quick. All right, so the 3 agents that we had running earlier finished their work. Right here it is in the chat. All 3 sweeps came back with verified findings, consolidated, deduped, and ranked below. That was all thanks to the prompt, right? That was the thing that I was trying to talk about earlier. Is like, you don't have to sit here and observe every single file that is being iterated over if you have checkpoints being discussed in the workflow. One of the greatest features inside the workflows now is the new feature on Claude Code called goals. So you can even tell the bot, after you have enough context, how far you want it to go to complete the next thing, right? And if it has enough context, if it has enough review of everything that's going on, it will actually be very aware to the point that you may not even have to really prompt anymore. It's really just kind of monitoring the workflow, automation, and the human in the loop effect of you being able to approve things. That could get it done for you, right? So anyway, getting you back on screen here, 2 findings, from what it's kind of said here. It said that there were secrets that it wants to get rid of, kill switch bypass, not real, but are not real camera safe from here. So great. It even knows that we're on camera, so it's not going to share it now. And then verified PR candidate and all of the things that it was able to find, things that need to be worked on as bugs for the software today. This is not even the bug hunting models that Anthropic is putting out, like Mythos or OpenAI's ChatGPT 5.4 Cyber, I believe it is. Those models I'm not even using those. But the models today, Opus 4.6 and 7, are capable of being able to do it if you can iterate and give it context enough on what to do to get through a bug hunting session, right? And because we're already at 27 minutes for this video today, I won't be finishing a fix right now in this video. We are obviously going through how to find the bugs. And so from this list, I mean, you kind of see this. We got critical issue here. We got critical issue here, high issues here. So I can actually have Claude Code finish this, and I'm going to have it finish this for our session over the night. So I'm going to go ahead and set this here in the video. I'm going to say, hey, fix all things that are high, critical, or super problematic. If any issues arise or you need me, Slack me. Boom. Just like that. Okay. That it's gonna work. It's gonna get to work here. So we're gonna let that do what it's gotta do. But over here on our screen for presentation, we're gonna end this kind of getting into the end screens here. So the docs are user facing code, right? This is your 10% rule. The AI will get 90% of the doc refresh right. The 10% you hand edit is the difference between docs that pass review and docs that actually help a junior engineer, right? So if you're going to onboard somebody, especially in the state of AI today, you need to make sure you have this done correctly. And then is every stale API reference updated in our example project? Do we have things in the project that we can work on for doc script and current behavior? And would we have a new contributor understand the context that has been carried in my head as like the senior engineer on this process versus not having somebody today, right? Sorry, I had to take a drink. So from this, I mean, you should see how onboarding should be super helpful too, right? Just a heads up on how I would structure my commits, right? Messaging from your agents, you can feed it kind of a prompt like this, and then feed it a rule. Your commit message says what and why, not a list of file names. If it reads like a directory listing, you're not done thinking, right? So you can tell Claude or OpenAI Codex, whatever, this is exactly how you want the message to be, the commit message, and put yourself ahead of the game. You can give it a description. So make sure you capture these things on screen. You can pause, go back and look at these. Here's the PR description or the pull request description that I would work on and kind of the format that you would want to work on. Here's an example, right? We have a bug fix and whatever. I gave you an on-screen view already of what those actually look like here during a real conversation with a bot. So I have a list of PRs already, and these are called verified, right? Verified PR candidate board. And that's where you want to be, is not just have it go and iterate over the code base and find 1,000 PRs and then find that 75% of them were basically hallucinations, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to quickly consume the code base, but the verification step, the second verification step, is what you will truly benefit from, right? These one-shot steps that everybody's wishing for, it's not plausible, right? And you want to be successful. So that's what I'm trying to set you up for. So the full workflow end to end when it comes to managing tickets, PRs, and getting that full software development lifecycle going here, it's not different. It's not super different than what was happening with humans. It's collapsing it into you managing the elements of it, right? So you essentially set up the context, aka write the ticket, plan and strategize for a large chunk of your time spent on the tickets with Opus, right? Or the higher end model. The other one for ChatGPT would be 5.5 at this point. Push back, right? Like, no matter what is provided for you, be picky. Be picky about, is the data returned to you the way you want? Did you have the data formatted with numbers the way you want it? Did the headers look the way you wanted? Whatever. Execute final PRs with Sonnet, and then review and redirect. I would say a minimum of at least once, but review and redirect maybe twice, because that's the same quality you could kind of get from a full dev workshop. Excuse me. You're going to want to delegate that execution, as I said, and never delegate the judgment. Finally, just for review here, what it costs currently is that like roughly 50 cents for Opus planning tokens, and roughly $1.20 for a million in Sonnet and for execution. So cheaper than coffee. The expensive part for this is that you're just spinning your wheels and spinning tokens. So people who say they're token rich, I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard, because to me, it just says you needed more tokens because you're not effective or efficient, right? Okay, so again, super grateful for you joining me today. Really looking forward to working on part 3 of this. So it'll probably come out next week, Monday, and I'll kind of work on the next steps to present with that. But if you have something you're interested in watching, drop a comment. Please let me know something you want me to cover more in depth, technical stuff, or just strategy in general. Happy to cover it. Go to the link in my bio so you can learn more again about socials. Go to the company website, thedataexperts.us. You can learn about the AI strategy work, the AI implementation, different projects that my company offers today. And happy to, educate and talk about any of it if we need to. So until then, bye.